Okay, so just a quick question here. Who thinks video games are a serious thing nowadays? Like they're more than just a trivial thing that you can take care of or care about? 4, 5, 4, 5? Okay. So, like now, for the rest of you, imagine something that you really like a movie, a book, or a TV show. Imagine following that book or whatever you like for years on end and falling in love with the story. And then imagine at the end of that story, they give you a crappy ass ending, one that you hate so much because it has nothing. It's so far away from the story, and so far away from the lore that it makes no sense. And it just, you can tell it's just a crap out ending because they want to make more money off of it. Now, today, so imagine. Because of that, there are many things that are like the video game industry is kind of like that nowadays. Sorry, because with other industries, you can see that they put out many types of media, and you actually care about those, and they're taken seriously. And when something bad happens with them, you care about it. With video games, not as many people know about it. Like if you hear a controversy with some other kind of medium, like a computer, technology, a book, a movie, you will hear about that. But if someone complains about a video game that something's not good, no one will care about it. Only the people that will care about it are people who actually play the game. A specific controversy, which is just tied to which is my main point, which would drastically change the video game industry landscape, is the ending of the game Mass Effect 3, which is extremely controversial in the at least video game world, where to give you guys a background, if you don't know what Mass Effect is, because obviously none of you played it except for those 4 or 5 of you, it's a game about humans going off into discovering space travel and discovering a galactic community of aliens. And then the series of the game Mass Effect is famous for its storytelling and the ability for players to choose many things about the many different ability of the players to choose the path of the story and how it goes. And the controversy with the third and final iteration of the series is that at the end of the game, it's complete crap. And it gives you only 3 choices after having told you many times over and been advertised as such that all the decisions that you made throughout the game would actually matter. The reason why this is important is because video games should be taken seriously, and in order for this to happen, a controversial issue such as this needs to be taken into light. 3 main points I would cover proving this are the fact that video games are not taken as a serious industry today, and video games are in fact an art form and should be treated as such, and that gamers nowadays have become an ignored and exploited consumer base. Firstly, video games are not taken as a serious industry. The video game industry has been around for as many years as computer industries, and has for about almost 30 years. And many other industries which are taken seriously nowadays have taken around that much time to be taken into consideration as an actual serious industry. Take, for example, movies, which in the beginning of the 19th century was just a new fad, but eventually, within around this time span of 40 years or 30 years, there were already things such as Hollywood, which were making it into a big thing. Now, but for video games, people, even though it's been around for 30 years, and it should be well past its infancy stage as an industry, it's still considered very young, and people don't take it seriously. When consumers of other industries complain about about a product that they have, people actually care. The news covers it, and then the companies that do something that make the error are either change the product and fix it, or they get a massive smear campaign and no one gets, and their business goes down. For video games, this doesn't happen, as can be seen, where if gamers complain about the product, people don't really care. The media doesn't really cover it, and then it just does that, even if the game's complete crap, despite having been advertised differently. And video games are a major part of our modern culture because they have a serious impact on the current generation, and forward technology, and they're famous for storytelling. Now, video games. Secondly, video games are an art form and should be treated as such. Many games have artistic facets such as great stories, amazing visuals, and amazing presentation, which many critically acclaim and notice. Then, for many other art forms, artistic integrity comes into effect when you think about when there's something wrong with something artistically with the product. For books, movies, and other art forms, they're examined and tested with test audiences before they're released to make sure they are going for what the producers wanted, either going for quality or for the most pandering product that would earn them the most money. And if something was wrong, then a big public response would be made, and everyone would be, I guess in terms of. So, in conclusion, video games should be, video games are extremely, video games are an important part of our modern culture, and in order for video games to be taken seriously, a big decision such as changing the ending of Mass Effect 3 would be an important step into bringing the video games into a light that makes them a serious industry.
All right, Jerome, you've got too much background in your speech. I mean, you don't get to even what your topic area is until almost 2 minutes into the speech, and it doesn't really sound like you've got a very clear claim until right at the end of the speech. You've got a preview supporting information 3.5 minutes into the speech, so I finally get an idea of what the structure is. So you're going too much into this esoteric background. And the problem that I see immediately is that it sounds like it's a value claim. You're making a judgment that these have some aesthetic qualities that is the equivalent of any other piece of art, and so it should be perceived the same way. Well, that's a value claim as opposed to a claim of fact. If you want to talk about Mass Effect 3 and some problem with Mass Effect 3, then you're going to have to get out of this notion that there's some art issue that's going on. This is a commerce issue, and you should tell us why this product has failed to satisfy the demands of the consumers, or why consumers are powerless in this particular situation, or tell us what action consumers could take that would have an impact on this particular thing. Something along those lines would be a claim of fact. As it is, it just get the whole idea of your subject, which seems to be inspired by your frustration with the ending of Mass Effect 3. I mean, that gets buried in all of this other stuff about video games and the artfulness of them. And you just keep coming back to the same comparative examples, which are abstracts to begin with, about movies, books, and other art forms. And I'm not saying that they aren't comparable in some way, but they are just vague comparisons that you're talking about. Books generally don't get the same kind of testing. They're usually written by a single person, at least a novel, for instance. Occasionally you have collaborators on those sorts of things, but that's vastly different than a video game or a movie. You know, movies, they do get tested, but they generally don't get changed the way that a video game would be, and they're certainly not interactive the way a video game is. So why is this analogy a valid one that you've got? I can tell that you're passionate about the subject, and I think that you speak pretty effectively, but I'm not exactly sure, the same kind of issue that we've had with a couple of other speeches. What's